It's just booting up across LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, and folks should be joining in a bit. Just checking everything. Yep, everything should be fine. Going live in YouTube, LinkedIn, X. So yeah, hello everybody. So if folks are already joining in, it would be good to know, guys, where you are tuning in from. I'm gonna ask this young gentleman to see where he's tuning in from. But it would be good to find out, guys, where you are joining in from in the comments below. Whether you are coming from Europe, US, wherever it is that you're coming from, it would be good to know because there are definitely things that are done potentially differently when it comes to building out systems, what to think about, etc., and so on and so forth. So it'd be just good to know where you are tuning in from. We have our first guest called Dominicus. Hello, full timers. Yes, we're definitely full timers. So doing this, all day long, building systems and stuff like that. So gonna do a quick intro of myself. So Frank Saunders, I run a company called Salesforge, or just the Forge. We do I build a lot of softwares, and we should be having like hundreds of different people joining us right now. But I decided to invite for this particular session and talking about systems in particular and how to think about system building. What are the key components? A young gentleman called Sergey Cheshvili, right? Am I pronouncing that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, Cheshvili. It's like nobody can, other than Georgians, nobody can pronounce that correctly.
So Sergey is going to introduce himself in a bit, what he does on a daily basis. He has prepared for us a ton of juicy content when it comes to building proper systems that need to be in place for your campaigns in outbound to last significantly longer than that would typically last. So I've seen some of the good stuff that he has prepped for us. I'll be asking gazillions of questions. Like imagine I am potentially the guy that's exploring this, etc. So, but what we definitely are encouraging all the folks right now that are tuning in is to already ask questions that you have around system building. So definitely outbound systems. So Sergey builds these systems literally on a daily basis for gazillions of lead gen teams out in the world. So any questions that you have immediately, or as we're going to be diving into how he thinks about system building, feel free to drop in your questions. And then what we'll do in the second half of the session, so after about 30 minutes or so, we're going to be tackling all the questions one by one. So me and Sergey, we're going to do our best with our know-how to answer even the most difficult questions that you may throw at us, guys. So Sergey, over to you. Do introduce yourself. Tell us what you do on a daily basis, and then we'll dive deep into what you've got prepped first.
For sure. Thank you very much for inviting me, Frank. It's quite interesting to have this kind of conversation. I'm gonna like super shortly tell you about like what we do. So I'm Sergey. I'm co-founder and CBO of Stimuli, and basically like what we do is that we act as tech ops department for B2B lead generation agencies, and like it's quite unique place to end up in. So basically, like we had our cold outreach agency where we have worked with like more than 35 clients, and then basically like, we have automated lots of different processes, and then we have showed this process to a couple of our friends who are like also outreach agencies themselves. They really liked it, so that's when we started to like work with them to automate their processes. So yeah, that's super shortly about what we do in general and how we ended up here.
So I guess the way I should think about you and what you do, like tech ops, you said. So it's like essentially think about like NA10, right? So you're like, well, it's not NA10 maybe, unless you correct me if I'm wrong. But essentially, you do all the assembly line to help to essentially build out custom systems, right? For different agencies out there.
Yeah, so basically, like we don't only use like no code, low code. Like we literally like do custom code.
Yeah.
So like we create like custom systems. And what the unique thing about us for B2B Legion space is that like we the experience of running your own agency gives you unique glance of like which process, which tool is most profitable for which kind of problem. So basically, like most of the tools which are on the market, like no code, low code tools, have like huge minuses when it comes to like scaling all of this business operations, because like they have quite limits. After some amount of like clients which you have, you can't actually like scale the whole process. So that's why we go and like use anything which is like used for like creating most cost effective and also scalable solutions. So like no code, N8N, I don't know, like Python, anything.
Gotcha. And how typically does it, how long does your setup last in terms of kind of building out the systems for your customers right now?
It's quite a good question. So basically, it really depends on agency to agency. There are like, even though B2B lead generation agencies and especially like cold outreach agencies seem quite similar in many ways in processes, they are still very unique. And basically, like it can take anywhere from like 4 to 5 months to like 1 year or something like that. And it really depends on like what kind of automations these agencies want to have, because we have clients for whom we have literally connected every kind of department which they have into one another. Like we have connected their finance with their client service, with their HR and all of the stuff. So that way, like the CEOs of this kind of companies have like full pulse of what is happening in their agency. Like basically they can see like how much money they are making with each project and like see like clients who can potentially churn in like near future and address the issues before they actually like go into insane mode where then you can't actually like address them anymore. So it really depends. Super simple stuff can be automated like in 1 to 3 months, something like this. When it comes to like email infrastructure maintenance, like then like more complex stuff such as like data gathering, it can take like 2, 3, even 4 months. Then it also comes down to finances and so on. So it is really custom for each specific agency and level of automation which they want in their company.
Gotcha. You're also building out these systems for non-agencies as well, or you haven't done that yet?
To be honest with you, like at this point, we have only worked with B2B lead gen agencies because we really wanted to be like best when it comes to like creating operational systems for B2B lead gen agencies. So far we have only worked with them.
But I assume that these systems, though, they're still applicable, for non-agencies as well, right? Because
yeah, for sure,
system building is kind of very similar. I think it's less complex, I guess. I would just say, on agency front, there's just some of the things that they just may need, right? But I think a lot of the things that I think I've seen, and you're going to show us in a bit as well, applies, for any other business that may be also doing large scale, outreach, right? So.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll dive deep into that in a bit, guys. So for everybody who's joining right now, feel free just to just write where you're from, guys, where you're tuning in from. And as you're going to be seeing a lot of the juicy stuff that Sergey has prepared for us, that already seen it, feel free to drop already questions right now, or as you're seeing some of the things that he's going to be showing us, feel free to immediately drop these questions. We'll be picking up those questions live on the show. Across YouTube, across LinkedIn, and other places where live streaming, and then we're just going to be picking them up. So, Sergey, without further ado, let's have a look at, I guess, the stuff that you have prepped for us. So,
for sure, give me a second.
Quite excited, actually. There's a gazillions of questions that I personally have for you as well.
For sure, give me a second. I'm gonna start sharing the screen right now. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Just feel free to zoom in because potentially for some of
like this.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, because of some of the folks, they may not see it on live stream. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So basically, like before we do a deep dive into like each and every detail, I wanted to just like sum up in general, like what is this about? So basically, like when you're running cold outreach and you are doing this like quite frequently, sometimes you have moments when either you have like low reply rates you have like low interested reply rates, or your campaign is like failing. And basically like some of the people, and me as well, might get depressed in that kind of situations, because like, like 1 month it can be like great and amazing, and second month it can like fail, or like have and basically
It
like we
tanks
have
typically, right, after a few weeks, right? So for a lot of people.
yeah, for sure. And basically, like we have tried our best to create a system where you have this instant feedback loop from your campaign, in order to give you right kind of feedback to then fix your campaign in right direction. So basically, like if you use like spray and pray, or like do massive campaigns, in that kind of case, learning curve is a bit longer, because like you need to there are tons of people which are contacted, like hundreds or maybe even thousands of people every day. And basically like sometimes it happens that you make the decisions 3-4 weeks later, and because of that, that time frame is long, you actually might have done something much better in the past. So basically, that's why we created this. So with this system, what us and like a couple of our clients also like do with outreach is that we go all in, and we on daily basis fix our campaigns 2-3% at a time, like super small adjustments. But
Gotcha.
these adjustments are done like every day. So in a nutshell, like instead of like doing one audit like once a month, and then like completely destroying all the campaign and like rebuilding everything up, we change like everything like 2-3% a day. So that way, like in a month, it is completely different campaign, which is based on the one which was created a month ago. So yeah, that's to sum up super shortly. So basically, like
why did you pick, maybe one question, why do you pick like 200 leads of contact? It's just random example, why it's not 1,000 or 100 or whatever.
It was like our case. So like we really wanted to, it can be done for like 1,000. So once we have automated all of these processes, which I'm going to show you right now. So we really wanted to like do these loops as frequently as possible. So we did it like every day almost, like and because of that, it's 200 leads. But for others, it can be like 1,000 or 100 or anywhere else.
Gotcha.
So basically, like what happens? So when you are running a campaign, you need to like take a look at a couple of different metrics, which actually give you feedback about campaign health. So there are a couple of like how can I say, like top of mind ones, such as like bounce rate, for example, and reply rate. But there are the ones which most people don't really check. So for example, ICP champions, or interested reply rate, or copy champions. So when I say champion, I mean like the version of the copy or ICP which perform the best for that specific campaign. Then email provider champions, and so on. So I'm gonna like do a bit more deep dive into like each one of them, the ones which are a bit unique, because like bounce rate, everybody knows that you need to like take care of bounce rate. I'm gonna begin with like ICP champions. So like basically, like when you send the when you do email outreach at scale, and you target, like let's say you want to target marketing agencies, management plus level marketing directors, marketing managers, CMOs, and so on. So like marketing agency as a whole, you think like marketing agency sounds very like very, how can I say, like instinctively like one thing, like they do probably marketing. But there are a million types of marketing agencies. Some are like B2B lead gen agencies, some are SEO agencies. Then you have like creative agencies. Then you have guys who do like Amazon copywriting. So these guys are extremely different from each other. And like when you do outreach at scale, you might get lost in the results which you're getting from it. So at the end of the day, like campaign might be performing like super well, but you might be getting all the replies from SEO agencies, and you just think about marketing agency and not SEO agency in a niche. And then you have like 4 or 5 titles in this SEO agency, and you might be only getting replies from like co-founders of SEO agencies. So like if 90% of the whole traffic comes from here, and these SEO agencies are in literal sense only like, I don't know, like 15 or 20% of your whole data, this means that like 80-85% of whole data and whole your email infrastructure is spent, not even spent, like wasted on something which doesn't actually produce any kind of value. So like in order to like leverage your whole infrastructure in 100% of way, what you need to do is that you need to normalize the data before you import all of this data into any kind of software, any kind of tool, outreach tool, which you use to like do cold email outreach. And once you have these normalized titles, normalized industry specifications, then it enables you, the data which you have imported inside, enables you to export it outside and then analyze it really well. And you can do this like almost every day. Well, before you automate it, like we have automated it and we don't need to do that. But even on manual basis, it's super cool and super useful thing. And like once you know, for example, that you have you have found a niche inside this huge marketing agency niche, which is like SEO agency founders, then what you need to always do is to double down on this niche. Basically, like every time you gotta talk with your either GTM engineer or your data specialist or someone else, and you gotta talk with them like, can we actually find more of these kinds of leads? Because as you know, like the niche data is like quite restrictive. So like SEO agencies might be like only like 6,000 which are into your ICP and stuff like that. And basically that's when data specialists should come in, and he should do all kinds of research on like Clutch, for example. He could then like spend more time on searching if he could scrape the Clutch, get the data from there, and so on. So this way, like you have a specific task for the person who is responsible for data gathering in-house, and rather than telling him to like just get general marketing agencies, which are, I don't know, like 100,000 or something like that, you give them really specific task. And what this specificity gives you is that this data specialist then will have a possibility to go into niche databases, which are not very public, like Apollos, Zoom.info, and others. And this kind of like small databases, there are kind of like gold mines into like when you are doing cold outreach, because then from these niche databases, you can actually gather like really cool insights about this kind of, for example, SEO agencies. Like from Clutch, you can scrape the percentages of service or which they sell as an agency, or like industries which they work with, and so on. So like this is like first part. Then like if the data actually is not enough, and like you actually see that, hey, I have reached out to like 10,000 people, and only people who, like 90% of the people who were interested in my service were SEO agency co-founders, and like these SEO agencies are only like 600, let's say, or something like that, and there are only like 400 left. Then you need to like put on like a red alarm bell. You need to like do something, and you need to have like internal meeting with your marketing or like sales team and understand like, what are we doing right now? Because if these guys are, if we basically like, if this data is over, then what should we do? Because like then like your marketing team or sales team in that case should really concentrate on which kind of niches are next to that niches. So like which niche is like similar to like SEO agency founder, and so on. So this is like only about ICP champions. Sorry if I got like longer. So if you guys will have like any kind of questions, please just stop me and ask me at any moment, because I don't know, like if I start talking about this, I might not start for like 2 days.
We just be talking about the whole session just about that, right? So
Yeah.
I just assume if we don't have any questions, that it's straightforward for most of the folks. We can just move on to the next ones. The people maybe want to ask you questions. I guess specifically around, I guess, interested reply rates. That's the one that moves the needle for me the most, and I guess most of the people as well.
Yeah, for
One
sure.
thing I want to ask you, because I haven't seen here that you're outlining that, but this may be campaign specific. But you're not talking about much about opt out rates or unsubscribe rates from the campaigns, because that can be also signaling whether you're reaching out to the right people, whether you have the right copy, etc. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's actually quite a good remark. I have forgot to mention it in the presentation. So basically, in that case, you also have like that should be included in the reply rates. Like most of the time, like any cold outreach specialist, we don't actually like most of the time. I personally like don't have unsubscribe link in the end of the email, and instead of that, like we use please like reply with no thanks or something like that, in order to like boost the reply rates, and also like take these people out of the mailbox and so on. But like when it comes to that, I think that should be inside the reply rates, and like if those ones are a lot, then it's also like kind of a trigger that something is going extremely wrong.
Makes sense. Yeah. Sometimes you can also have the unsubscribe link in the header of the email as well, right? So this is something that I've seen as well. The reason why I'm asking that is because typically, high opt-out rate means there is something wrong in the copy with or the targeting. So that's something that you want to maybe use to optimize. So I'll give you an example. Let's say literally the latest campaign that I looked at today, for one of the random customers, he had like 22% opt-out rate. To me, it's great. If people are opting out, so instead of clicking on the spam button, they actually opt out. Fantastic. You're not actually negatively impacting the infrastructure, that way, with the gazillions of spam reports. So like that is generally good. But that also kind of signals that, potentially, if it's like very high, I don't know, maybe opt-out rate would be, 50%, then you definitely have something wrong with the audience, or the copy as an example, right? So typically I would say it's the audience, right? Who is it that you're targeting? But yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Reply rates is the one that you want to tackle next?
Yeah, for sure. Like we have right here, like either reply rates or like interest reply rates as well. So like what happens is that like if you have like low interest, like reply rate is trickiest one. It's like trickiest because like if you have low reply rates, there might be like millions of problems like everywhere. So you need to check like everything. Basically, like you need to do, and I don't know, like I have made this mistake more than probably anyone else, because like when you do setup, sometimes you forget to like do simple things such as when you target like Europeans, you might choose time zone of the United States, and like that will totally fuck up whole campaign. Or like one of the coolest ways, which we have found out to like check the deliverability as well of the emails, is if you have like Google Analytics and Microsoft Clarity installed in your sub landing page, which you're using for redirect. So basically, like for the ones who don't know this, when you use like your domains, one of the coolest ways to like track the traffic is to like create a sub landing page from your main landing page, where naturally SEO or LinkedIn or this kind of traffic will be avoided. So this landing page will be in whole vacuum by itself. And basically redirect all of these domains which are using for outreach to that specific subdomain, and that way you will be able to check if the traffic grows when you start the outreach. This means that the people are going to the website. If it doesn't grow, this means that you have more problems, probably in like the messaging itself or even deliverability. So
I've
this
seen
is
actually
like
some customers where essentially cold emails as the it was the number one traffic source for the whole website. It's not just a
Yeah.
subdomain. Sometimes literally the whole website, the number one traffic source. You can see just cold emails. is actually driving the traffic from the website, and it's actually incentivizes that those particular customers to just keep on sending, because that actually traffic actually does result in a lot of conversions on the website as well. It's
Yeah,
definitely
but that's
one of the strategies that
the
a lot of people just don't use a lot as well.
yeah, that's for it's really good for like smaller companies to do that. But
Mm.
when the company gets large, they have this natural traffic, organic from
Yeah,
SEO, from LinkedIn, and because of that, like for them, we're always recommending to like create this separate space
yeah,
in Vacuum where they can just experiment with lots of different stuff. And there, I'm gonna like it's a bit borderline for that, but cool thing is that when you have that installed, you can also like see what is wrong with your landing page as well. Because like if you have Microsoft Clarity and like Google Analytics, that's best milkshake to understand what you have fucked up on your landing page, to like basically change the copywriting, see where these people are spending time, where they click, and so on. So to back to the subject, then one thing you should always check is like data, because I don't know, like maybe I'm that kind of person who makes like manual mistakes sometimes, but in the data you might have a mistake which you don't won't actually think about. Like you might have a one more comma or one more dot or something like that in your personalization as a
yeah.
variable, which can fuck up everything basically. Mm, uh,
Oh, you
and
mean like user the recipient sees like curly braces and stuff like that? Is that what you meaning? Like
uh,
if you have an issue there? Like,
what I mean is that like when you have your like when you are importing the data and you have your personalization done inside the
yeah,
CSV, and in this personalization, I know that most of the people do it with AI, so I
yeah.
also do it with AI, and like sometimes AI goes like a bit insane, and like part of the data set might be actually like weird. Like it might actually output like whole email text or something like that
Mm,
inside the variable. So like you might be actually sending the personalizations which you don't had in mind, without you knowing it. So like checking the
mm,
data, if you have something, some problems with your reply rates, is totally like a good thing, because I don't know, like 5-10% of the time that was like my problem if the reply rates were low. um, then you can also check the spin tags, because when you do spin tags, like there is ton of text, and if you do actually embedded spin tags,
yeah.
and you have like couple of different levels of spin tags, it can get extremely difficult to like just differentiate this text from each other. And cool thing is actually we have created a SaaS for this, literally spintaxer.ai, literally for this specific problem, to solve it. And yeah, it was quite useful for us, and then a couple of our users loved it as well.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's like
And
one of the most advanced spin taxers in the market. Like if somebody's like super crazy about spin tax, then you go to Sergey and his tool. He'll get you sorted.
yeah, and yeah, it was quite it is quite like Spintax itself is quite important in terms of like deliverability. It
Mm,
literally like when we go to like reply rates, interest reply rates, we're gonna see like how it actually prolongs the health of the life cycle of the whole email text. And then in the end, you have like email health check, which is like quite normal. So like most of the time, like 90%, 95% of the time, if Google or Outlook hasn't done anything crazy, like created like different kinds of regulations,
mm,
95% of the time, one of these bad boys is killing your campaign. So like those 5-10% of the time, maybe that the thing like effort will be too much to put into like checking all of this stuff. So this is like about reply rates. Then you have like interested reply rates. So if you are getting like lots of replies, that's already a good sign. So you are already landing in inbox. And then you have like either high or low interest reply rates. If the interest reply rate is low, then there might also be like a couple of different problems. First, offering might be like wrongly written, like who knows. So basically like I had this kind of problem that I was always like reading this killer copies about like money back guarantees, for example, and I was like, let me test this copy and let me like try with money back guarantee. I tried it, and it it killed everything. Like every guy who I was sending this email thought that I was a scammer, because then I had like only couple of meetings from these emails, and these guys were like, I thought you were a scammer at first, because like if you have money back guarantee in your email, it's weird as hell. So like you might be thinking that you are doing best thing which cold emailer can do, and you might still be fucking up. Then you have like call to actions. You like sometimes aggressive call to actions work. Like if you are like, let's meet, like
Can you give me an
very
example of
direct.
an aggressive call to action? I think most folks will not know what an aggressive call to action may be. What's the most aggressive
Yeah,
one?
so yeah, like most of the time, like how can I say, like I in my imagination and in my usage, like aggressive one is when you literally tell them to meet, like know this thing, or you like reply with me like some questions or something like that. When you basically want to avoid how can I say, non-financial engagement as much as possible. So like when you literally want to filter out the leads and see only ones which are interested in meeting itself. So like for me, that's aggressive, a bit aggressive call to action. For you, maybe is it?
So, I mean, I typically lead what I would describe soft CTA. So I would typically ask, is this a priority? Um, is this on your roadmap? Is that like essentially it's a soft CTA, so like an open-ended question, because what I've seen, at least in the past, is at least with initial email that you send out, you just ask, is this top of mind? And then in the second follow-up email, I typically do go with more of a, what I call hard CTA. Which is like, would you be open to grabbing like 15 minutes next week on, say, Tuesday or whatever, So because you want to kind of, again, you want to sort of test it out even within a single sequence, like a couple of CTAs, a soft one and a hard one. So you don't go with the same kind of, a soft, like both soft or both being hard. The thing is, a lot of people, like, let's say myself, I typically do like 10-20 meetings in a day, and I just don't have the time to talk to you. That's it. That's how it is, So I don't have the time. Time is money, essentially, right? So, but you may push, something. Is this a priority for you? And I'll just tell you yes or no, and that's it. And I do respond back saying, nope, not for us. I'm not an ICP. Not for me. That's it, And then you end the story, right? So, so I don't get additional follow up, for example. But this is how I think about generating things, especially if you're targeting, C levels, CEOs, whatever, CMOs. All these people are busy. They're in meetings, doing stuff, doing webinars, whatever, podcasts, all that stuff. They just don't have time to engage. So you definitely want to be within the sequence, changing up the CTAs.
Yeah, for sure, man. It really depends on like what kind of situation are you in, because like for me, for example, I was also having like tons of meetings and tons of replies at the same time. So I really just wanted to like, how can I say, filter the ones which were like most interested in that
Yep.
moment and that time. That works really well as well, because that works actually much better than the hard CTA, when you have like also huge amount of resources, SDRs, and all of this stuff, because then you can create like really good pipelines for the people who gave you like interested reply, like follow them on LinkedIn, like I don't know, like message them on WhatsApp and so on. But like it depends on like what type of situation you're in. In my case, what I think, and secondly, like it depends on what do you want at that point. So like if you want to like sell as quickly as possible and you have already cracked the messaging code, in that case, like hard CTA is quite good. If you have like more time on your side, you have more resources, you have SDR team and all of this stuff, soft call to action is really good because it can really like, how can I say, push up this like long-term relationship with a prospect which you are targeting. Um, and then like there is like about the tone of voice as well. I don't know, like I really love doing like different kinds of messaging, like to like go when I write email copies, for example, or like on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp or wherever I am. I really like to like test out different kind of tone of voice. Sometimes it is like when you're targeting like specific target audience, the humorous tone of voice might actually work because it's so unexpected. You might crack code in tone of voice because like the most of the time when you write the email, your email's tone of voice is quite similar to other emails tone of voice. And if you have like if you use like some spicy humor or something like that, sometimes it can work, but sometimes it can backfire really badly. Like sometimes you might not get replies, and plus that you might get flagged because of bad joke. But yeah, I don't know. Like I used to like test this kind of stuff all the time because I don't know. Like when you work like 12, 13 hours a day, there is not much space for the humor, so you gotta test out some things in your work.
I mean, sometimes
So
people
yeah,
respond back just because you're just funny. As simple
yeah.
as they really, you spiced up their day. Sometimes people just send let's say in the follow-up email, naturally not in the first one, like a really funny GIF. Sometimes it's a personalized GIF. You could send a video, right? But ultimately, you made that day, and they reply back to you not because maybe you had the bestest email copy or whatever it is that you're selling, but purely because you made the day. So that's also how you can increase the number of replies, because naturally every single reply that you're getting actually improves your infrastructure health. So
Yeah, for sure. And cool thing about this is that like you can do like personalization and also like this a change of tone of voice in so many ways. It's like endless. And like in terms of like tone of voice, for example, you can actually like take your favorite like comedians or something like that whose jokes you really like and like train AI on that specific tone of voice and then like mix it with like some kind of professor from Harvard and like do all of this kind of experiments. Like you can write like one simple email in like 15 different ways and like check out like what works and what doesn't work. And it's endless. And I really love it, to be honest with you. And then like if your reply rate is low, and I think one of the thing which I have forgot to mention here is about personalization. Your personalization might not be as good as it can be. And one of the coolest insights I got about personalization, it's a bit off topic, but I think lots of your viewers might find it quite valuable, is when you do very unexpected thing. Like, for example, like everyone can use Claygent to basically scrape the testimonials of the website and stuff like that. But what nobody can do is to use webarchive.org, go to website of that company, search what kind of testimonial did they have 5 years ago, which they don't have right now, and use that company, use that testimonial inside the email. Like that really puts you out. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
from the web archive, damn, I would not think
yeah,
about
like yeah, because nobody expects that. Like nobody expects that you are actually gonna use like some web archive to like literally see, and you can build so many crazy copies around it. Like once you know companies background and what they were doing like 6 or 7 years ago, because this is very good to target like C-level executives, because
Mm.
those ones remember every client they have worked with, and those ones were probably writing that case study by their hands 7 years ago. So basically, like, you're gonna like take their teenage memory and basically like realize those teenage
Mhm.
memories in their email, and it works
Yeah.
amazingly. Like, it's quite unexpected.
So Sergey, I'm just conscious of time.
Mhm.
Do you have other stuff as well in there? As
Yeah,
well? I
for
thought
sure.
you
But
were- yeah,
I think we have covered the most of the parts, to be honest with you.
the most
Uh,
important.
yeah, like then most of the things are about like email provide, like choosing the email provider,
Yeah.
for example, and documenting all of this stuff. What I can actually do is that most of the people who will be interested, I can just send them this PDF file
Yeah.
and like give them the whole tutorial around
Mhm.
it.
Cool.
Mm,
In terms of email providers, just generally, like, do you typically just use multiple email providers, where you again see which provider works better, or what do you mean by email provider champion kind of?
that's actually a good question. So basically, like, it depends on the market you're targeting
Okay.
sometimes, and timing also. So basically, like, when we mainly use like Google and Outlook and nothing
Yeah.
more. And the thing is that sometimes Google works better with like Americans when you're sending them emails, and sometimes Outlooks works better for Europeans, like from
Yeah.
our experience. So
Mhm.
basically, like, when how can I say, when you check this kind of data all of the time, you might actually find out that Outlook might really well work for DACH region, like German speaking region. And
Okay.
it might be super unexpected. And if you know this kind of information, you will double down on the email provider which you have. So you
Mhm.
will build more like Outlook emails, and double down on email on the prospects which have Outlook. So that way you can
Yeah.
always, yeah, once more, like, you can always leverage your full capacity at maximum. So you can make maximum return on investment from your cold outreach.
Gotcha. Yeah, I typically recommend to use two or two four ESPs, like email service providers generally. Just like you're diversifying your sending across multiple domains. You want to also diversify the sending across multiple email service providers, right? So because what you're doing is just spreading the load, right? So there's just lower load on one ESP. But yeah, just a bit. I guess there's just a bit more work in that sense, managing multiple ESPs. Awesome. So let's kind of go through, I guess, Sergey, just a few questions.
Mhm.
There's several questions, but I think what I really like is we have one individual in particular, Matteo. He has like gazillions of questions, so I would want to kind of go through quite a few of those, and some of them are like really good. I mean, all of them are kind of good, but I just want to kind of go through. Let's go kind of through first one on Mateo's, and then he has a few bunch ones as well. Do you have like a specific tool stack that you just use across the whole thing, or you just kind of tailor the tool stack depending on, I guess, the setup that you're building?
Yeah, that's how it works most of the time. To be honest with you, like, we install this kind of systems for our clients, and our clients like work with like different kind of systems. So like some of them use like Instantly or Apollo or
Yeah.
like Suminfo and stuff like that. So basically, like, ToolStack is quite very how can I say, like, quite different from agency to agency.
Mhm.
So like, I wouldn't say that I have like really a specific tool stack which I always
Yes.
use. I try to like take each case one by one, and
Yeah,
then like build the tool stack around that specific use case.
makes sense. Cool. So let's go to the next questions. Around what's the best time frame to be sending around emails? You said that sending in the wrong time frame is bad, like if you're in Europe and sending to US, like, so that's what you mentioned. Do you have a specific times that you're setting for the US, like in particular, or you haven't observed any difference?
Most of the time, to be honest with you, we send like in the morning, like from
In the
7
morning.
to 8 a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
From 7 to 8 a.m. to like 10, not even 10, like 12 p.m. maximum, like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. So like
But
we
then
have
you're
this.
but then you're pushing a lot of load into those hours, right?
Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you extend the time frame, to a bit longer, like you would
Yeah.
diversify the sending, no, across more hours.
Yeah, like, but like in later stages, right now, like
Yeah,
we're doing like small scale outreach campaigns most of the time, and
gotcha.
so basically, like best time to like reach out to them is morning most of the time because we target like C-level executives, and they open their emails first thing in the morning. So
Mhm.
like we don't actually concentrate on scale as much as the how can I say minimum quality of it. So we have quite niche ICP at this point, and we that's why we have like shorter time frame. But for our clients, when we were outreach agency ourselves, in that case, like we had much longer time frames, like from
Mm,
8 to 7 p.m. From 7 to 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m., like 5 p.m. and stuff like that.
gotcha. Do you have any particular days that you see better performance, or you haven't seen any noticed around the
Oh,
days?
that, that's actually a quite good question. I was always trying to make it to think about, but for me, it worked for Wednesday most. I don't know why. Like
Mm.
in the middle of the week, like from my outreach campaigns, I always had the most replies on Wednesday. I have no idea if it's just accidental or something like that, but it worked out that way like almost all of the time.
I can give you an understanding what happens on a macro level. Typically, if you look, let's say, a particular website, just any random website, you typically see quite a more traffic happening um, from sort of Tuesdays to Thursdays, and the reason for that is people are typically busy on Mondays, like super busy, and you have a lot of meetings happening. Um, and then on Fridays, people take time off, or they're not as productive, really. So really, the prime time. If somebody's asking, Frank, when's the prime time to be sending emails? And if you have the luxury to be, not sending on particular days, working days, then I say Tuesdays to Thursdays. And yes, you do see the peak in traffic on many websites on Wednesdays. That just implies, if people browsing a lot of sites on a particular day, that means they just have more times on their hand. So yes, there's definitely, in my opinion, there's definitely um, optimizations you can do on days, because I'm personally like super busy on Mondays. There's a lot of meetings that happen on Mondays, and a lot of people for some reason want to speak on Mondays, and there's a lot of reporting that happens on Mondays. Essentially, Mondays is the worst day, for example, in this company and
Yeah.
many companies that I've been working at. So really Tuesdays is when kind of makes sense, and Fridays, yeah, also a bad day in my opinion. It's just that a lot of people take time off, etc. They're not really in, let's call it, work mode. They think about weekends, whatever. So I really like, if there is a luxury, then Tuesdays to Thursdays is my top recommendation. So
Yeah,
um
I had like one small comment which I want to make about it is that like I was also like thinking like why am I doing this on Wednesday as well, because I always check my emails most of the time on Wednesday, like when I say most of the time I mean like 3 or 4 times a day. And what I noticed is that most of the C-level executives actually like work 10 days without stop, and like that 10 days actually like starts to how can I say, like add up around Wednesday. So on Wednesday they are at the edge of the breaking point where they just want to like surf around the internet, like see emails and stuff like that. Like around me it was like that, and so it's just my idea. It might be like total total crap, but still, yeah.
the other thing that I just mentioned on the days, and some people just don't think about it, is sending emails on Sundays to founders for companies below 50 employees. You will see a lot of founders do work weekends, and guess what? Nobody's
Yeah.
sending emails during weekends. And if you want to send emails during weekend to founders of different companies, then Sundays is a pretty good day. Highly recommend to test that out. I get a bunch of replies on weekends, and yes, you can build pipe during weekends. It's just not with anybody, right? But with definitely specific ICPs, you can also send emails during weekends if you want to test that out, because there's also less competition for the inbox during the weekends, right?
Yeah.
So think of it this way, because automation software, right? They don't send during the weekend. So it's something I highly recommend sort of testing out. Cool. Let's move over to another question by Dom. Could you explain the formula and metrics in your audit report behind the scale versus audit thresholds, and explain what the timeline dates and left axis ratios represent?
Give me a second. I need to analyze this question. So
Sure.
could you explain the formula and matrix in your audit report, the scale and audit threshold? I think he's asking about the screenshot which I had.
Yes, we did. Yes, that's exactly.
Give me a second. I will share my screen one more
Yeah,
time.
go for it. Let's go for it. Dom, diving deep, just for you to look at that stuff. That's the type of questions I really like.
Yeah, that's quite a niche question. So basically, like this is kind of like audit report, which we have for.
Can you zoom in a bit more, just slightly more?
Yeah, for sure. So which we had for like when we were running our outreach agents. So like our clients were receiving these kinds of reports every day. So here, and this is so beautiful. Like the solution architecture behind this report and what it does is just amazing. So basically, you have a report where you can see what is interested reply rate, like this, and then you have thresholds. So like low threshold is for when you are in low threshold, you need to audit the campaign. And cool thing is that we also created like task management system specifically for like lead generation agencies, and audit the campaign task is automatically created in task management system for that specific client if the reply rates are here. If they are about here, like need to scaled, then in that case, what do you need to do? Like you need to add more data, you need to add more emails. So these two tasks are created automatically inside the task management system, and people are assigned automatically as well. And I don't know, like we have different kinds of like our clients work with like different kinds of subcontractors or like providers with their email systems and so on, and it actually creates email infrastructure automatically, like if the campaign needs to be scaled. And if it is right in this middle of the section right here, it is the most tricky part, because you need to like really check it every day. If it goes down, it goes up, and so on. So you just need to like take a look at this process. And here, like there are super cool. This things are everything like customizable for like use case per use case, and like we have right here in the analytics like amount of leads which were contacted, interested reply rates, and like replies received. But cool stuff is that you can actually have all of these metrics right here automatically. Like you can have like name of ICP champion, name of email provider champion, name of copy champion, like all of this stuff inside the analytics itself. So I think I have answered the question or not.
No, I think so. You did. So Dom, if something was not clear, feel free to send over a follow-up question. Guys, feel free to keep sending the additional questions you may have for Sergey. Unless you're shy and you don't want to necessarily ask questions, you want to ping him on LinkedIn and buy his stuff or his custom setup. So yeah, he doesn't have one specific tool stack or whatever. A lot of people ask about the tools and so on and so forth. But yeah, it really depends on the I guess the requirements of everybody, right? So but yeah, I think a lot of things that you said definitely makes sense. I don't think there's something that you intrinsically miss, because we definitely discussed the copy, right? Super important. Discuss the various variables that impact longevity sort of the campaign, right? Is there something maybe around prolonging, let's call it the performance of the campaign, something maybe that you would kind of add like as a cherry on top, something that people don't typically think about? How do they prolong the performance of the campaign? Like, I know you said a lot of things that you're thinking about, but is there something that maybe is not a mainstream thing to typically say, but you would advise for people to kind of dig into to prolong the health of the campaign?
I think like one of the cool things, I don't know how it will like main things are basically the stuff which we have talked about. One of the most important thing is also like spin tags to like correctly do everything. It's literally like we have tested it and it literally prolongs the life cycle of the email copy. And one of the cool things which we have just built out for one of our clients is email rotation. It can also really help with deliverability. It is unbelievable. The system is super cool. Like it can basically like when you have like a bunch of emails, let's say you have like 20 emails, you have like 10 emails inside the campaign, you have 10 more emails in the warm-up space. And basically what happens is that you can system automatically takes these 10 emails and detaches it from the campaign and puts these 10 emails inside the campaign. So this way, like it doesn't actually, the emails actually don't burn out. So only thing which I can add, but this is advanced, really advanced.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is all the pinnacle of like automation in B2B lead gen space.
Gotcha. There's only two things that I will add maybe on the longevity that just kind of jumps to my mind. This particularly is more relevant maybe for the non English speaking markets. So like in other markets, the way that you can increase the health of the campaign significantly if you start doing localization across the campaigns. So if you start
Mhm.
adding in different languages into the copy, because those languages is just like spin tags, essentially the variation of the copy that you're sending, right? So that is one thing. Now the problem that you're adding with that is naturally sometimes the person will respond back to you in that language and you're unable to respond or get the meeting rolling. But if somebody's like if somebody wants to easily sometimes 2x the reply rates within a specific geography, I don't know, like France or Germany, etc., just by switching your copy from English to that native language can easily increase your reply rates and also increase the health of kind of general overall campaign. Let's say if you're targeting the whole Europe. So that's one maybe advice. The other one is that comes to mind is like sometimes I've seen folks do it, and especially the large scale senders, is so to avoid the, let's call the spam reports generated by the prospects, you're actually decreasing the number of total emails sent to a particular prospect to just 2 emails that you're sending out. So you're literally just doing one initial email and follow-up, and that's it. And then you're leaving them alone for sometimes like 2-3 months, and you're essentially doing what you're doing is you're re-engaging with the prospect after literally a quarter. And the reason why you're doing that, is you're minimizing the number of spam reports, because ultimately with every single email that you're sending out, the probability of spam report naturally increases, right? So so what I've seen, with people that typically do a lot of volume, they only do 2 emails and then they re-engage after a quarter, and they've seen much better results from that. So the thing is, once you send like a couple of emails, you definitely want to kind of transition to another channel like LinkedIn or maybe whatever other channel you have at your disposal, but you essentially want to try something else instead of just kind of continue kind of going at it and email number 5 followed number 10, whatever that is, right? So that's just another thing. How can you increase the overall, I guess, health of everything that's happening within the reach out? So we have a few more questions for you, Sergey. Let's kind of go. Dom has just another follow-up question. What if there are no interested replies? What are you auditing then?
Yeah, in that case, you gotta audit everything. Like,
Yes.
like in that case, like I'm gonna send the PDF file to you, Dom. So basically, like in that case, you're gonna audit like everything, starting from the email copy, then spin tags, then data, the email providers, then technical setup of the providers and email setup, then warm up and how well it went. I don't know, like. And there is basically like that is worst kind of situation, because basically better than doing audit of that campaign is just to basically like delete that campaign and start over, because like it will take so much time to like check every detail that it is much better to like build up new campaign from ground zero.
Yeah. So we got a question from RC. So you generally recommend very short emails or long emails. So I'll try to take a stab at this and then pawn it over to you, Sergey. But there's only one market where I see folks writing really long emails, and it actually drives significantly higher reply rate. And that is the DACH region, essentially Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. For some reason, the Germans love longer emails. For some reason, it's essentially more, there's more credibility, and as a result, from long emails, as a result, there's just more replies. That's the only market where you would typically say write significantly longer emails. But the rest of the markets, like the English-speaking world and other markets that I've seen, they're typically very short emails. And the reason why generally the shortness is a thing is because very important people only write short emails, right? So only non-important people write very long emails, because you're typically a sales rep, right? So you're trying to pitch yourself. But that's something that I observed. Anything that you would add here, Sergey?
Yeah, the thing is, most of the time, like analytically, if you're doing this at scale, then yeah, like everything which Frank said is like it's like go-to basically. It's like tutorial of how to do it. But if you do it all manually sometimes to like go to really specific leads, then you can actually like with the type of thing which I have told you about Web Archive, if you have that kind of catch in the first line, if you have mentioned like their, I don't know, like 5 years ago, the company which they have worked with, and like tell them that kind of compliment, then they are gonna read everything you have in the rest of the email.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can bend the rule there, like what's called deep personalization, right? So if you're doing deep personalization and you actually have, whatever strategy or the resource that you're happy to spend per lead to increase deep personalization, then yes, I would agree with you that you can have significantly longer email copies. The only thing, around increasing the length of the copy is the problem there is that potentially one of the words also in the copy may get caught up in the spam filters.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
What I'm trying to say is that the longer the copy, the higher probability that your one of the words in that copy may end up in the spam filter. So there's definitely statistical data to suggest that typically the shorter the number of the shorter the emails, the less likely you're ending up in spam, because of course there's less content in the email, right? So that's why. So just kind of keep that in mind. So another follow-up question from RC, maybe just for you, Sergey, is there a max character count that you would use writing a cold email copy? Like, is there a typical guideline that you tell everybody?
To be honest with you, like I try to keep it like short most of the time. If I'm not doing like crazy personalization, like maximum like 50 to 100 of words, not characters. In characters, I don't really remember how many is it, but like 50 to 100 words is quite flexible. Like you can put like ton of information about you, your offering, and all of the stuff in this word frame.
Gotcha. And then another final question from RC. So the data that you're showing from the email providers and tools like Instantly, whatever, Salesforce, and so on, do you get that data automatically? Do you pull that via API, whatever? Or do you export that campaign data each time to fill out the report? What is it that you do?
I don't know. It's with API. Like it's with API.
I mean, it would be very weird if you're gonna say no. We download a CSV and then we have a person, goes and uploads it. No, I think these days, guys, if you're not doing via API, and if you're like a very sophisticated shop, like everything kind of is API based. And again, Sergey can help with all the API stuff. So over to the next question from Manoj. What kind of technical email do you suggest for cold emails? For example, ESPs like Google with SaaS tool, third party, SMTP, SendGrid, whatever. So one thing that Sergey has mentioned is like his typical go-to is still just to use Google and MS365. And then here is mentioned like SendGrid. I don't think you would. Do you recommend SendGrid at some point to use?
To be honest with you, like I'm not that how can I say, like qualified when it comes to like email infrastructure setup itself in technical side. I think you are much more qualified for this question than me. Like I do more of a sales and like what works, what doesn't work with data and analytics and stuff like that.
So the best way to answer, I think, this, like it kind of really depends on a few things. So let's say if you're going into after Fortune 500 companies, as an example, so like companies that have very high email security policies in place, typically you want to go, you never want to have an email infrastructure set up which has dedicated IPs in that case. You would definitely want to use what's called a shared IP pool. So Google has a shared IP pool. So when you're buying mailboxes, you're on a shared IP. Microsoft 365 has that. Mailforge, for example, one of our infrastructures has that. So you definitely want to use a shared IP approach when it comes to penetrating the big boys, because the big boys use anti-spam softwares like Mimecast, Barracuda, etc. And when you're using a dedicated IP and they can see it's a dedicated, it's not part of the major shared IP pool, they go and block it. That means all of your emails will get blocked from that IP, and then you have to delist, and it's just a fucking nightmare. So you definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to use dedicated IP infrastructures in that case. So it kind of depends on the ICP, really, is probably the answer. But my typical approach is something I mentioned, maybe I usually missed it, but typically these days, there are problems with any path you go down. So I always say set up 2 to 4 email service providers, and that is the best way to look at it, like diversify, de-risk. And then again, that actually brings longevity in your campaigns. That's exactly what I do. I have 4 email infrastructures running right now as part of my setup, because I'm just de-risking to the max, right? So it's the same how you think about domains. That's why you buy multiple domains. You're de-risking, you're spreading the load, and then you're spreading the load across multiple infrastructures as well. All right, and the final question. I know we're a bit over time. Let's take it from Matteo. Matteo, final question from your side. You mentioned a lot of spin tags. What do you think about automation in NA10? I think Sergey probably has a lot of thoughts. We use NA10 ourselves. That with AI can change text to give a similar version of the message. That would be hard to analyze. So yeah.
Give me a second.
Go first. Sorry.
You mentioned a lot of what do you think about automation in anything that with AI can change the text to give a similar version of message? I don't know. I think it can be done with like different methodologies, like to create a spin tags. You can use like all sorts of low code, no code tools. We have actually created our own tool for for that. You can actually do it in like ChatGPT. There are a million different ways to do spin tags. So like with NA10, I'm almost sure. I haven't tried it out, to be honest with you, and I'm not as technical as my co-founder or Frank here with like these tools. But I'm almost sure from the surface what I know about these tools is that you can probably do it.
Yeah, you can definitely do it. We use NA10. We don't use NA10 for that, but if for some reason you have a need, like you definitely can go aggressive on NA10 and build out a gazillions of copies and then kind of push it into your sending. So you can definitely do that. Do you want to do that? Like if you're NA10 savvy, sure, do it. But I think there's just simpler ways to implement exactly the same what you're looking to do. All right. Let's take final question from RC. Everybody has a different. I bet you get this question a lot. Any recommendations for emailing B2Cs in the US? It doesn't matter. I decided to take this question because it's very different. I get this question every day, literally every day.
Really?
Frank, what do you recommend for B2C? Sergey, what you gonna say?
Oh man, I haven't touched B2C for like 5 years, I think. Like I have no idea about B2C market. I'm super B2B.
The way look, so this is the final question and answer. So the way to think about it, nothing really works in the world of B2C. And the reason for that is very simple. Google is very protective of at gmail.com, same with Microsoft at outlook.com, etc. When cold emails start rocking up in those mailboxes, and essentially the tolerance that they have for spam reports is very, very low. So that means irrespective of what you're gonna use, the burn rate is just high, mega high on that infrastructure. It doesn't matter what you're gonna use. So does it work? Can it work? Yes, it can, but only in a few examples. I'll give you an example when does it actually work and when the burn rate actually is manageable. So for example, when you have a high reply rate is like massive. My video for some reason stuck for a bit, but I'll give you an example. Let's say in the educational sector in the US, right? So let's say a lot of folks are applying for a degree in the US, and for some reason you as a university, you're reaching out to the degree applicants about the course and everything. So of course, you're going to have a lot of questions coming from the students. So that's an example of a B2C where you are fishing for, you know, the prospects, right, for your degree at university, whatever Harvard it is, where the student's going to pay 100K. It's just, you know, a hardcore example, but that's an example where you're sending cold emails to somebody and you expect replies. It will be very odd you're not going to receive. So when you get replies, reply rates essentially is like you know, it essentially improves health a lot. So when Gmail or Outlook sees that these recipients actually are responding back, then that improves your health massively, and then that combats the spam reports you may be getting. So I only have seen in a few cases where it works. So yeah, it kind of depends. So, but you need to figure out a way when you're sending emails to B2C, so at gmail.com, etc. And these may be just businesses, right, in the US, whatever. So then you need to figure out how can you make them respond back. So that could be something that you're literally providing of free value, which is why they respond back. And then you kind of engage. So you have to think about the strategy there, but you cannot push for a meeting or whatever, like a typical thing that you do in B2B. So getting responses in B2C is like critical. So it has to be something that, you know, providing for free, whatever, right? That's why they're responding back. So yeah. Cool. Really appreciate Sergey having with us for an hour and talking about all things systems. How can people find about you?
They can just like search for my name and surname and like my company name. I don't know, like if I say my
Maybe not your
surname most.
surname, your first name and company name. Yeah, Sergey Stimuli. If you search for him on LinkedIn, you'll find him. But I think your last name is a bit, unfortunately, too difficult to find. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I assume people, if they want to reach out to you about building custom systems in place, you're the team for that, right? If you want guys the PDF, keep knocking his door. Say thank you to him on LinkedIn. Tell him what you want from him. Ask him gazillions of questions, right? If he doesn't know, he'll ask his technical co-founder as well, additionally. So feel free to use him. Sergey is a very nice guy. He shares a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, so definitely follow him. And otherwise, we shall all see you guys at the next show. We got to be talking more on the topic of data. Data leads, all about that. We have an interesting guest. I'm not going to say who it is, but really appreciate it, guys, joining in, and see you around. Cheerio.
Thanks, man. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.